extraña. La nieve caía y la música sonaba. Estaba caminando meditando en el pasado. Los niños lloraban y la gente gritaba. Porque todo por causa del pecado. Amor, paz y armonía para toda la vida. Love, peace, and hope.
Can't believe there's so much hate between black and white. Religious wars are being fought to prove who's wrong and right. But love is what we really need to put out the fire, to shine some light on this darkened world at its darkest hour. Yeah, we need everyone to forget about racial lies. Evil don't discriminate, crime is colorblind. We need everyone, both you and me, so we can have love, peace, and harmony.
I have a dream.
Have a dream.
This nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We always choose to be self-evident that all men are created equal.
Children dying in the street each and every day. And people, don't you realize it ain't supposed to be that way? We need everyone to forget about racial lies. Evil don't discriminate, crime is colorblind. We need everyone, both you and me, so we can have love, peace, and harmony. We sing about it and talk about it. Just what about it? Love, peace, and harmony. And pray about it, and pray about it. Just pray about it. Love, peace, and harmony. Yeah.
I dedicate this song to all the troops around the world defending our freedom. And to Reverend Martin Luther King, thank you for our freedom and liberation.
Love, peace, and harmony. Sing about it, talk about it, just what about it? Love, peace.
Yes. That Love, Peace, and Harmony. That wasn't Smokey Robinson there. No, that was my guest, my first guest, Mr. Ricky Jason. Huh? And a round of applause. That's a beautiful rendition there. Voice is so angelic. Yeah, listen, he's on tonight, and it's a special show I have because it's the 25th anniversary. Mr. Jason was on before and discussing the dragging death of in 1998 in Jasper, Texas. This is Byrd, the life and tragic death of James Byrd Jr. This is a documentary that Ricky did, Mr. Jason, and winner of over 56 plus awards. He's getting awards every day, pretty much, it seems. But yeah, he discussed that, and that's what he's here for. We're going to do a follow up in regards to what happened to the three racist men that did this horrific, sick crime. It went beyond hatefulness and race lines, and it was just pure sickness. It's just madness. But Ricky, he's here to talk about that. He's hooked up with. Ricky's an entertainer. He's a community activist, protege of the late great Dick Gregory, the great community activist, brilliant comedian, and yeah, this is the pedigree that Ricky is from. And so he's going to be here to discuss that. I needed to play that song up front just to show you his other talents. He was also a dancer. He opened up with the Glow Dances for New Edition and for the Force MDs. So he's all that. He's very, very talented, very skilled, and I'm blessed to have him on my show. And without further ado, let's welcome, Mr. Ricky Jason. Yes.
Thank you so much, Mr. George Mason, for having me on this wonderful, one of the greatest shows on the planet. And
God bless you, sir.
Mr. George, I'm blessed to be here, to tell about Mr. James Byrd Jr., who was dragged, who was lynched, who was murdered in Jasper, Texas, 25 years ago today, just because he was black.
That's it. That's the only reason.
That's the only reason.
Yeah. And it said James Byrd Jr. was such a talented individual himself.
He was a genius.
He was a genius, and nobody found anything wrong. We'll show some of the clips where they're singing his praises as far as to his musical prowess and just the heart that he had. So we're going to cover all of that. And first I wanted to, we got Karen on the check-in, Karen Biden. She says, hey, y'all, Karen's out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. There, she's bitter because she lost Aaron Rodgers to us here in New York. Yeah.
Good evening, Miss Karen. Good evening.
Yeah.
Good evening. Welcome aboard.
Yes. So, we're going to get right into it. And before we set it off, before I show any of the clips, anything you want to touch on before we kick it off?
First of all, I'd like to say, thank you, Mr. George. Thank you, Miss Karen, for being on board and watching, and people that's around the world that don't know this happened to James Byrd Jr. Even though I won all the awards around the world, it's still some people that haven't saw this documentary, and you'll get a chance to look at some of the pieces and what really happened in Jasper. And I'd like to thank Mickey Dickoff, filmmaker Dick Gregory. I'd like to thank a lot of people that's been supporting me and backing me. But like I said, we still have the whole world that needs to see this. The 25-year anniversary, and Jasper, Texas have not changed. It's worse than what it was.
Incredible. And with that, we're going to show first clip.
The execution of this man has been on the mind of Ricky Jason for years.
It's time for justice, and if anybody deserves capital punishment, it's John William King.
After James Byrd Jr. was killed, Jason wanted to share his story.
He was alive through most of all that dragging, so you can imagine, because that day morning we went out there, we could still smell his flesh.
In 1998, Byrd was beaten and dragged. He was targeted, prosecutors say, because of his skin color. Jason documented the crime and the life and tragic death of James Byrd Jr. during his work. He reached out to all three men convicted of the crime. One of those, John William King, responded with this 2-page letter. In it, King addressed Jason and Byrd's son, Ross.
Do you and Ross really want to associate with an unrepentant racist supremacist like me? If not, speak now or forever bite your tongues.
King goes on to write he wasn't there at the time of the murder, and he offered no remorse.
That don't show a person has changed.
Prosecutors say King was the ringleader who orchestrated the crime. He was sentenced to death. Jason says he'll be in Huntsville outside the prison. Just like King's letter offered no remorse for the crime, Jason says he has no sympathy for his punishment.
I'm against capital punishment, but for you, John William King, you deserve it.
On June 7, 1998, James Byrd Jr. accepted a ride from 3 white men, Sean Berry, Lawrence Brewer, and John King. What transpired afterward was a horrifying act of racial hatred. We will reconstruct the timeline of events, including the abduction, the long drive, and the eventual heinous act of violence. The details of what happened that night are both shocking and heartbreaking. We will delve into the brutal murder itself, discussing the methods employed by the perpetrators and the unimaginable suffering endured by James Byrd Jr. This section will be handled sensitively, keeping in mind the gravity of the situation. After Byrd accepted a ride from the 3 men, Berry, who was driving, was acquainted with Byrd from around town. Instead of taking Byrd home, the 3 men took Byrd to a remote county road out of town, beat him severely, and chained him by his ankles to their pickup truck before dragging him for about 3 miles, 5 kilometers, on Huff Creek Road, County Road 278. Brewer later claimed that Byrd's throat had been severed by Berry before he was dragged. However, forensic evidence suggests that Barr had been attempting to keep his head up while being dragged, and an autopsy suggested that Baird was alive during much of the dragging. Berry, Brewer, and King dumped the mutilated remains of Byrd's body in front of an African-American church on Huff Creek Road, then drove off to a barbecue. A motorist found Byrd's decapitated remains the following morning. Along the area where Byrd was dragged, police found a wrench with Berry written on it. They also found a lighter that was inscribed with Possum, which was King's prison nickname. The police found 81 places that included portions of Byrd's remains. Since Brewer and King were well-known white supremacists, it was determined by state law enforcement officials that the murder was a hate crime. They called upon the Federal Bureau of Investigation less than 24 hours after the discovery of Byrd's remains. King had several racist tattoos: a black man hanging from a tree, Nazi symbols, the words Aryan Pride, and the patch for a gang of white supremacist inmates, known as the Confederate Knights of America. In a jailhouse letter to Brewer that was intercepted by jail officials, King expressed pride in the crime and said that he realized while committing the murder that he might have to die. Regardless of the outcome of this, we have made history. Death before dishonor. Sieg Heil, King wrote. An officer investigating the case also testified that witnesses said that King had referenced the Turner Diaries after beating Byrd, a book written by an American neo-Nazi white supremacist. Berry, Brewer, and King were tried and convicted for Byrd's murder. Brewer and King received the death penalty, while Berry was sentenced to life in prison. Brewer was executed by lethal injection on September 21, 2011, and King was executed on April 24, 2019.
Tonight, more than 20 years after one of the most gruesome hate crimes in this country, the ringleader in the dragging death of James Byrd Jr. has been executed. John William King, convicted in Byrd's murder after his death in 1998. Our Sophia Bosley was in Huntsville for the execution of John William King and tells us what happened.
Brewer was sentenced to death and was executed at the Huntsville unit on September 21st, 2011. John King was sentenced to death and was executed at the Huntsville unit on April 24th, 2019. Sean Berry was sentenced to life in prison. James Byrd Jr.'s life was taken away from him in the most cruel and inhumane way possible. Byrd Jr.'s life was taken away from him in the most cruel and inhumane way possible. With all of the darkness and despair, there's solace to be found in the fact that James didn't die in vain. Following his death, Byrd's family would go on to found the James Byrd Foundation for Racial Healing, an organization which conducts diversity workshops, offers scholarships to people of color, and runs an oral history project with more than 2,600 personal stories about racism. On May 11th, in despair, there's solace to be found in the fact that James didn't die in vain. Following his death, Byrd's family would go on to found the James Byrd Foundation for Racial Healing, an organization which conducts diversity workshops, offers scholarships to people of color, and runs an oral history project with more than 2,600 personal stories about racism. On May 11, 2001, Texas Governor Rick Perry would sign the James Byrd Hate Crimes Act into law. This act would strengthen penalties for crimes motivated by a victim's sex, color, gender, race, religion, disability, sexual preference, age, or national origin in the state of Texas. On October 22, 2009, President Barack Obama would sign the Matthew Shepard and James Byrd Jr. Hate Crime Prevention Act, which would expand on the original 1969 United States hate crime law to include crimes motivated by a victim's perceived or actual gender identity, sexual orientation, gender, or disability. Jamie Byrd, James's youngest daughter, would morph her anger and pain into purpose, and she now serves on the Houston Police Force for over 10 years. The murder of James Byrd Jr. was over 20 years ago, but the aftershock of one of the most abhorrent crimes in U.S. history continues to be felt to this day. While some positive changes came about in response to his murder, it doesn't change the fact that James Byrd Jr. was an innocent man. The only thing he was guilty of was being born black, and 3 white supremacists summarily executed him for that. James Byrd Jr. was a person that was loved and cherished. James Byrd Jr. was a person, and he didn't deserve to die that way. And really, no one does. Knowing that just 20 years ago, something like this could happen in my home state, and somehow, some way, people thought that this was an okay thing to do, it deeply upsets me. Our society is going through a lot of changes right now, and I think it would be a disservice to all of us to forget about what happened to James Byrd Jr. While our friends and family and neighbors are out there marching in the street for equality and fighting against police brutality, it's important to remember how demonic somebody can be without a badge on their chest. At the time of this recording, James Byrd Jr.'s murder was about 22 years ago. In 1969, the United States passed the Hate Crime Act. 22 years from then was 1991, the year that Rodney King was beat down in the streets. Inequality still exists. Racism still exists. Don't forget about what happened to James Byrd Jr.
Wow.
Yeah, that brings it
That's
all
deep.
back. Yeah,
It brings it all back.
Yeah, and I like to straighten out something. The police chief that was the chief back then, Sheriff Billy Rawls, and he had nerves to say on national television that he glad it was somebody black. You know, he glad it was somebody black and it wasn't nobody white. And a lot of people think that he was the one that found the remains. It was a little kid that was riding his bicycle that saw some of the body parts, and it was the black police chief that came out there. He was the deputy then, and he wound up becoming the police chief, and he married to a white lady, and the mayor, which was Billy Laux, the mayor fired him because he was black. And Mr. Dick Gregory went to Jasper, and some more other people went to raise sand before it went to trial. The city of Jasper settled with Mr. Rodney Pierce for $1 million, and he moved out of Jasper. And there was another guy that was, his ears was cut off, and he was laid in the ground. His name was Alfred Wright, and it's still killings that's going on. His body was decayed in the ground and stuff. It's still lynchings in Jasper. It's still crimes in Jasper. So the local media said, not the national media, local media said Jasper has changed. And the sheriff did say, the ex-sheriff said today that we won on the James Byrd case. We didn't win because James Byrd was executed worse than Emmett Till. James Byrd was lynched, and still to this day, they still killing people in Jasper. So we didn't win, and James Byrd is gone now. And some people think he has been forgotten. A lot of people don't know he was alive doing most of the drag and trying to keep his body up. When I went to visit Sean Berry told me he was screaming and hollering mama behind the truck, you know. So it's sad, you know, but we want the world to know that, you know, we believe in justice, and I was against capital punishment, like I said, you know, but Bill King didn't have no remorse. Even when he wrote me, he still didn't have any remorse. And before his execution, he got on the bed an hour before, and they told him to hold up, you might have a stay. he said, I'm ready to go where all white people is. So hate is real, and I could feel how James Byrd pain, because I went out there that day, and grabbed some of the grit where his blood and circles was and rubbed it in my hands, and it was still hot. On the streets that morning when I went there, I was like, oh my God, so it really done something to me. And I like to say, I thank Dick Gregory, Susan Sarandon, all the people that came forward to bring this to light, because they would have swept this under the rug in Jasper, Texas. Matter of fact, it was a young lady called me yesterday, said the police is doing things to her in Jasper. There's so much going on. His grave been vandalized twice. It's still been lynchings and killings in Jasper, Texas. So I want everybody in the world to know that Jasper haven't changed. And I still go to Jasper.
Right. No, go ahead, continue.
I'm just hoping and praying, that, James will be resurrected, one day and stuff, and maybe his killers might too be resurrected. It's up to God to resurrect, because their parents had to teach them to be like that. But I want people to know
Yeah.
that hate is real. And Sean Berry, he told just to cover his behind, like Mr. Dick Gregory, late Dick Gregory said that he was with them, he was there. It could have been a 2-on-2 fight, but he chose to stand there and hang on the back of the truck and watch them do this to this man like this. And it's a slap in the face to us again. So we didn't win anything. But the police chief said today on the news that this was a win-win. No, this wasn't a win-win for black people. Happening now, being dragged alive, and throat cut, spray painted with the most horrible. I never smelled a smell like that in my life. That was my first time smelling that kind of smell, and it was horrible.
That's incredible. You see, my Eddie Prather, that's my buddy out in, he's in Marietta, Florida. And as you said, racism is real, and he's got stories for you as well. And he's on the check-in. Eddie said, looks like nowhere has changed.
Nothing, Eddie, and I thank you. And it's real. It haven't changed. So I don't want people around the world thinking that since this happened that Jasper's united. Everybody, blacks live on one side of the tracks and the whites live on the other side. That's still the same. And they just did that to that grave, after this happened. James Byrd was burying blacks on one side, blacks on the other side. But Jasper is still to this day worse. I get so many calls from Jasper, but you have to go in there with some muscle. And I was blessed to be able to go in there to film all this stuff. And they wanted me to sugarcoat the city of Jasper. And Dick Gregory said, if it's going to be sugarcoated, he didn't want to be on it. He was very firm about that. He said, because, man, this is worse than Emmett Till. And like I said, I did the best I can do. And I pray to God that everybody can watch this film and listen to this story, because this is real. This is not a game, and
No.
to see this man running behind a truck with a logging chain wrapped around him, and then he was alive through most of it, then hit the pavement, and that's when the rest of his body parts tore apart. We were out there while they were picking up parts, so that was horrible. It was sad, but
as you said, it's real.
It's real.
It's real. And it's graphic, no question about it. Very sensitive, and but this happened, in 1998.
That's right.
And yeah, I mean, not the 20s and third way it was sick then, the whole slavery, what we went through as a people, in total, and then what Mr. Byrd endured at the hands, and the fact that his daughter, his youngest daughter, she said, well, you know what? If I can make a change, I'll make it from on the inside. She's with the Houston Police Department.
Correct.
Now. Yeah. So God bless her and wish her the best. And hopefully her presence on the force can make some type of a change. And, to say that on itself, and my partner says it should never happen. Yeah. And you're right, partner. And we're going to keep it moving right along. I want to show the next clip. I'm going to take this off here while we show this clip in memory of, and then you'll elaborate after the clip, Ricky.
James's death has come to symbolize the ills of our society, what prejudice, hatred, bigotry can lead to if it's allowed to run rampant.
You might want to say today, sir, any thoughts you might have as we continue with the jury selection?
As far as any regrets, no, I have no regrets.
If they vote the wrong way, we know that they support hate crimes. Thank you very much.
I had to forgive because if I didn't, hate would eat me up just like it hit him up. And I refuse to live that life like that. Life is too precious to be just consumed with hate all the time, so I refuse not to take that step.
Hot sunny morning in 98, the 7th of June in Jasper, Texas. After breakfast, people walked to work or to church to hear the pastor's message. On a road called Huff Creek, found it tough to speak because what they saw left them gasping and breathless. The broken body of Byrd. And sure, you probably heard the story. It's rather gory, and if you follow the words, you can somewhat get a picture. But can you really picture being chained up into a pickup truck and drugged until the street rip your arm off and decapitate you? And the ones who perpetrated this act, for the simple fact that you were black, they had to hate you, mad at nature, because she made you beautiful. And that's irrefutable. Like the fact that crack, street pharmaceuticals is genocide to blacks. And although this attack on Byrd left the whole world disturbed, a few years back, it was common and not unusual for other brothers to get done like that. And the irony of it all, y'all, was Byrd was often heard saying that he would put Jasper, Texas on the map. But Jasper, Texas put him on the map, figuratively and literally. In spite the insanity of this calamity, his family refused to respond bitterly. And considering the circumstances, what riddles me is, we rallied to save the killers, but who rallied to save Byrd?
Investigators said that King, Brewer, and Berry drove around for much of the evening drinking beer. They went to Newton County, up around the Toledo Bend Dam, looking for a couple of young women they knew. One investigator said they were looking for a girlfriend for Brewer. They were unsuccessful. Byrd had been socializing that day as well. Earlier in the afternoon, he had been at a bridal shower for a niece at his parents' house in the east central part of town. Later, he walked on to another gathering, ending up at a party at a friend's house on the other side of US 96, the highway that divides East and West Jasper. A friend who saw him there said he was singing, dancing, laughing, and joking. The party was almost across town from his apartment, but Byrd started walking home. He was used to doing that, and besides, in Jasper, it was common to run across someone who would offer him a ride. That someone turned out to be Sean Allen Berry, John William King, and Lawrence Russell Brewer. Before the night was over, prosecutors allege the offer of a ride became a deadly kidnapping.
I'm very hurt, disappointed, to thinking if I could do anything that horrible to a person without a cause. I feel angry, but I don't feel any hate. I am angry at them, but I don't hate them.
Are y'all members of the Aryan Brotherhood? Are you part of the Ku Klux Klan?
We will work not only to make sure that the federal laws we have on the books will be triggered so that we can get the kind of designation that is necessary to ensure that there is swift and tough justice.
This death will be a catalyst to eliminate this kind of activity anywhere it is in America.
The town that calls itself the Jewel of the Forest soon found itself internationally branded as the place where an African-American man had been dragged to death. By the time the out-of-town reporters began to show up, 3 white men had been arrested. John William King, Lawrence Russell Brewer Jr., and Sean Allen Berry were safely behind the locked doors of the Aubrey Cole Law Enforcement Center. As the jail's front lawn turned into a circus of television satellite trucks, protest groups, and politicians, platoons of local, state, and federal law officers met inside to try to figure out just what had happened to James Byrd Jr. out on Huff Creek Road and why.
It was a shock because we had got to the point where physical attacks we weren't worried about. The movement had moved to a mental thing. And so when that hit, the whole country was shocked, particularly black folks. Probably the most incredible thing about it is because of the times and the news and the quickness of it. They arrested them 3 almost before they identified who the black man was. And the justice was so swift. Who believed a governor of a state that happened in a few years could run for president, and that was never brought up during the campaign? That's how quick to show you the change of America. And we can trace that back to Emmett Till. And thanks to Emmett Till's mother, because death has always been private. And the more ugly you are in the black community, from death, we didn't want nobody to see you if you had a stroke. And Raina's funeral home begged her not to open the coffin. She said, I might have to take my boy someplace else. I want the world to see what they done to him. Now remember, you had killing is one thing. You have to go all the way back, thousands of years. And the church wasn't happy with killing you. They had to torture you. That's where torture came from. It didn't come from the army. It came from the church. Torture. And so when you looked at the lynchings that existed in America, it wasn't just killing. It was castrating, cut your tongue out, cut your head off. That was the torture part. And so again, when we looked at that part of it, and so when Jet magazine put Emmett Till's picture on the front cover, to this day, we don't have an anti-lynching bill. Lynching went down to part 0 because America was embarrassed that the whole world saw what happens here. And so boys put the word out, you know, Hoover, FBI, hey, to the sheriff, we'll let this happen tomorrow, we'll get you. And so if you look at James Byrd, how quick they went in and brought everybody in. That just shows you the signs of the time. And that was my biggest thought, was the quickness of it. The surprise was I didn't realize. I knew there could be some white folks angry enough to kill you, but I didn't know it was still into that torture thing.
Man.
Yes, it was a rough journey, and you know, and thanks to, like I said, to Dick Gregory and others that, and they came down here in a heartbeat. They didn't hesitate. They stopped what they were doing, and they came here and they said, the world gonna see what happened in Jasper, and the world saw what happened. But the local media, like I said in both my texts, they like to sweep it under the rug. But as long as I got breath to breathe, we're gonna keep this story out there. You know, like when John William King had got an execution date for, I went to Huntsville. I used to be with Dick Gregory. When I go out there this time, you know, Mr. Gregory passed, bless his soul. I had to go by myself. I had over 100 and something death threats by the Klansmen, you know, saying for me not to go out there, and I still went anyway. You know, so I thank God for letting me be able to fight this here, but it's gonna take more. Like I said, people need to understand that Klansmen are school teachers, Klansmen are judges, Klansmen are lawyers, Klansmen, some of them ain't wearing the white hoodies on their head anymore. And they railroad.
You see what Eddie said, right? You see what Eddie Prentice said, police the KKK all over the country.
Yes, they
Huh?
are. Yes, they are.
Then he says, you know, these people do these things and then they go to church.
And it is so right.
And that's real. Yeah.
Yeah. In Philadelphia
So like
too, like Ernest Ford.
all over with Danny and Mustafa in Philly, you know, where and Mustafa also said, your fight is his fight. I wanted you to know that. Yeah, I don't know if I told you that before, but he had mentioned, he said, whatever, you know, Ricky Jason is doing, I'm with him.
Thank you.
He said, your fight is his fight.
Thank you.
That's Mustafa Majid. Yes.
Thank you.
Out in Philly with Danny.
Thank you. And Ernest Ford too. He works with the camp with Mamil Abu-Jamal.
Okay.
And thank you too, Ernest. And like I said, that young lady called me yesterday. She's watching too from Jasper, where she's having a lot of problems with the police. Miss Tanya Carter. She had a lot of problems with the Jasper police, abusing her, doing things to her. As we speak right now, she called me yesterday, trying to seek some help and stuff with her case and stuff. Like I said, people, you got to talk. I didn't bring Mr. Dick Gregory out there just
right.
He went there
just for show. He was serious.
He went there and he went to Mr. Byrd's, or brought him to Byrd's grave, and he told the people in Jasper to stop being afraid. We have the death penalty now. You know, this can't keep happening. White people doing this, so we have a death penalty now. And this is the first time that Klansmen ever got executed for killing a black man.
Incredible.
Russell Brewer and John King, the first time. You know, so.
And I wanted to show, because that showed with James's mother and father, and this is you and her.
Yes, that was 2 months after he was dragged, because they was appreciative by me getting Jesse, getting Dick Gregory, Martin King III, and all these people to get involved. Matter of fact, Stevie had helped them too, and sent some donations and stuff to help as well. And Mr. Byrd, he thanked me too as well. He was a good man. He was quiet. He didn't say much, just like his son James Byrd. But he was a good man, and you know, he's dead too and stuff. James Byrd Sr. and stuff. And I thanked them. That was before I had the documentary even done, because the documentary was Dick Gregory's ideal. He said he wanted me to go into Byrd's life. And I was wondering how we were going to get it out there, how we were going to distribute. He said God is going to handle it. And when we put it out, he had to approve it. It took wings and flew.
That's it there. If you want to go on YouTube, you can watch that's Byrd, the life and tragic death of James Byrd Jr. And this is what we're doing now. This is the 25th anniversary of the dragging death. And
free to watch, people.
You know,
free to watch. You know, it's a part of history.
Free to watch. It's part of history, and this is what we're doing now, doing the follow-ups. And it's graphic, it's gruesome, but it happened. And it's you know, in real time. It's so unfortunate, you know. And the thing is, it's just that the clips are going to show who was behind you, who was with you, I should say, as well.
Yes.
With Jesse Jackson, Maxine Waters, we've seen Khalid Abdul Muhammad with the new Black Panther Party, who was at one time Mr. Farrakhan's national assistant.
Yes.
Some powerful people, Martin Luther III, huh?
Yes.
And along with your mentor,
Dick Gregory.
The great,
yeah, they were behind me 100%. I couldn't
100%.
I couldn't believe it, because there's many nights that I broke down, and you know, everybody, have problems and stuff, but that had really done something to me. You know, seeing that, smelling that.
Everybody has to. If that doesn't touch you, you ain't got a heart nor a soul. Huh?
Yes, and I think,
no matter what color. I mean, people of color, us, Black people, Africans, because that James Byrd, that's me. That's you. That's your father, my father. Huh? That's what that really is all about. And even white people. because you got some good white people,
Yes, you do.
no question about it. Yeah. You know, we can't lump everybody and say, oh, them white, you know, such and such so on, like they do with us a lot of times. Oh, them black folks, that's such and so on, whatnot. But hey, there's good and bad and all. And there's no question about it. But this goes beyond, as I think one of them said, beyond right, beyond hate. You know, I think what is that? Barry's son. You said it. We'll show the clip, but let me continue with the clips, and then you'll elaborate. I'll elaborate as it goes on.
Thank you.
Okay, you all right? Okay.
I mean, the rules of what a white can do to a black in America was there before we were born. The rules for if you go in and turn state, well, they get somebody who wasn't even at the crime. Turn state witness. That's an accepted thing in a sick, degenerate society.
And a lot of people was amazed. They couldn't believe it. Caucasian people, African American people, everybody was in disbelief that this could happen in 1998. And this was not 1920 anymore. This was the modern day lynching.
Do you know 5 cities in America in the last 3.5 years they paid out $2.5 billion settling police brutality cases out of court? They used to not have to worry about that until white America saw something in 1968 at the Democratic Convention. They saw cops whooping white college kids, and something happened. So that whole sacred thing that was around them wasn't there no more. If you go back to 68 before that, when you went into any white suburbs, the major #1 bumper sticker, support your local police. If you found the sign now, it's a collector's item.
The Ku Klux Klanmen staged a rally in front of the county courthouse. About 18 Klansmen participated in what was allocated as a peaceful rally to protest the killing of James Byrd Jr.
You're sold a guy because your ass is mine.
You show you how you big as a contradiction.
Why the sun don't shine.
Before the KKK rally began, members of the new Black Panther Party walked through the streets of Jasper, chanting and warning of violence if there were problems for blacks.
We must have our God and our guns, and pray that God will bless us to shoot straight when it's time to shoot straight.
No, we did not distribute the weapons. No, we did not. But we will be offering self-defense classes to the black community here in Jasper for the next 5 weeks.
These guys were absolutely violating no laws. There was no bullets. Each one of the guys that did have a gun had a couple officers right there with them.
The NAACP called earlier this week on behalf of the House leadership and the Senate leadership quickly pass the Hate Crimes Act of 1998 sponsored by Senator Kennedy. We've also called upon the Attorney General to find existing law that will allow federal charges to be brought in this case.
This is a day of renewal, and I pray today that James Byrd's life will not have been lost in vain, but that out of tragedy we can find something good for this country.
got folks who go to Jewish graves and vandalize it. That's the depth of the hatred. They just mad that all I could do was kill you, right? So they do that. They've been doing that. They've been doing that. And lynching black folk, lynching Jews, lynching Chinese. They've been doing that. That's part of the whole sexual experience with that type of mentality.
It is an honor to be in Jasper County. I've met so many wonderful people here that if I had to have a second hometown, it would be Jasper. I'm from Waco, Texas, and I'm proud to be white. I'm proud to be in America, and I'm proud to be here today.
When will the hate stop? Yeah, that is deep. You know, that was a hell of a job that you did with that piece, that documentary.
Thank you.
And I mean, as we said before, you're welcome. As we said before, it's very graphic, and it's but as you my audience is saying, that it was brutal, and you know, you had the Klan, the Black Panther, the new Black Panther Party out there on all fronts, you know, to confront, you know, this situation that went on. And the Klan was being the Klan as they are, but you know, these guys, Allen, Barry, and King, these racist, you know, individuals. Uh, it's more than the racism, as we said. It's sickness involved. It's a mental sickness, huh?
And it was the sad part after everything was over when they were bringing Bill King after they sentenced him, and they asked him if he had anything to tell the Byrd family. And I stood, looked, my eyes almost popped out my head. He said, yeah, I have something to tell him. He told him to suck his blank and smiled.
Sick. Yeah.
I mean,
that's sick.
And I couldn't believe
You know,
it.
I mean,
You know, I said, wow. I said, this is the real Klansmen here. These dudes here, they gonna die, you know, for what, you know. And like I said, I'm against capital punishment, but man, these guys, man, didn't have no feelings, no remorse. And like I said, Russell Brewer, that's why his foot was broke, because he had kicked that other part that came off the chain till he broke his foot. When they arrested him, his foot was broke. He hated black people so much. Russell Brewer did too. He kept kicking it. That's why when they arrested him, his foot was broke. He broke it on the other part that was still left on the chain that they dumped in front of the church in MLK in Jasper. That's how he broke his foot. You know, like I said, man.
Let's keep it going. Yeah, it's sickness. Let's keep it going and elaborate, because it's a serious piece, and this is a story that needs to be heard, needs to be out there, you know, because hate is real.
We still got the whole
and
world. We still got the whole world need to see this.
Got the whole world. All right, let's keep it going. Let me see.
On February 23, 1999, jurors found John William King guilty of capital murder. To make King eligible for the death penalty, prosecutors had to show Byrd's murder happened in conjunction with another crime, and they argued the abduction of Byrd amounted to kidnapping. Brewer was convicted of capital murder and sentenced to death on September 22, 1999. Late prosecutor Guy James Gray argued that letters written by Brewer in prison, in which he claims to be a hero, demonstrates a lack of remorse for the crime. According to Gray, just as disturbing is the fact that the victim was nameless and Brewer had no reason on earth to hurt him except for the color of his skin. The defense argued throughout the trial that Brewer was a follower and was not involved in Byrd's murder. Gray suggested that standing by and doing nothing for the victim was just as wrong. Brewer testified during the trial that he only kicked Byrd once and spray painted his face, and that Barry slit Byrd's throat and chained him to the truck. Despite not having a racist background like his former roommates and denying active participation in the slaying, Sean Barry was convicted of capital murder on November 11, 1999, and sentenced to life in prison. Gray believed that Barry was more involved in the murder than he indicated and crafted his statements to benefit his defense.
Assembled before you today are members of the family of the victims of some of the most historically horrific murders in the history of humankind. All right. What has brought these two families together, and these members of these families and these allied organizations, is more than their victimization, but their response to victimization. Their response to bring something better out of tragedy than pain, suffering, anger, and vengeance. Each of these families, the King family and the Byrd family, reacting to those horrific murders, have decided that they want to take a stand for justice and against the death penalty.
All right. Yes, Father. Yes.
For anyone.
Thank you, Father. All right.
What they have said by their work and by their life's example is that the days of revenge and hatred and violence for them are over. And they want to model for us and speak to us how they have dealt with that pain and tragedy in ways that we have not experienced to lead us to a better society.
When I was here last year, James Byrd, we talked about him, Ross and I, along with Dick Gregory, because many of us across our nation have been praying for this family for a long time. But to see the courage that this young man exhibits, oh yes, stand up for that which is truth. Yes, Father. And it does not come often, or at least not enough in our society. And so, as Ms. Adams, his mother, I'm proud of this young man, proud to know him, and I thank Ricky Jason for bringing us together to have this opportunity at this point to perhaps do something that some would say is unprecedented. Martin Luther King said, you know, we here to say that no killing is right. And then to see his son say the same thing Jesus Christ said, forgive them. You know, that sounds good on paper, but we don't believe it. That's why black folk got so much sugar diabetes and high blood pressure and arthritis. We can't forgive nothing. You know, and then after you hate, that's instant gratification. See, the poorer you are, you need instant gratification. That's why sex is good, instant gratification. That's why if you drink some whiskey today and you didn't get high for 6 months, wouldn't nobody drink it. The poorer you are, the more you need instant gratification. So that's why somebody whipping you, they stomp you and cussing you out at the same, that's instant gratification. And so when you stop and see what that evil is, how it tears you up, it just burns you up in the inside. And until, you know, people learn that. They don't like the people that are killing. I could see a car turn over. My mother burned to death. If I can't release it. You know, it's like, I'm 74 years old. And if every morning I woke up and you brought me a pile of money for 74 years times 365 days, and my family know you bringing it to me, and then tomorrow I don't wake up, and we got tight jaws. That's what happens when people die. Here's a God that can put air in you, sunlight on you for 74 years, and one day I withdraw it and your jaws is tight, that's a violation.
When my father was killed.
Wow.
Yeah. I tell you.
What are you saying, Ricky?
I said, I tell you, today brings it all back. It feels like it was yesterday. I can't believe it's been 25 years that he was lynched and murdered, you know. And this day, like I said, they still having problems in Jasper, Texas. Yeah. And
so you're saying the hate didn't stop?
No, the hate didn't stop. They still are killing. They still lynching. They still got a lot of unsolved cases where people were found in hills and different places. Well, and the police just closed the cases and stuff. They don't know who killed them. And like I said, that Alpha Wright thing, that was supposed to have been another police officer had something to do with the Alpha Wright case. It never was resolved, but his ears was cutting off. They cut his eyes out. Cut his legs.
When did this happen?
This happened probably about 8 years ago in Jasper. Yeah,
And that's the same town, Jasper.
Yes, St. Jasper, Texas.
And you're from Beaumont. You got problems over there?
Beaumont is very racist too, because I'm like 10 miles from Vida, Texas. That's where the Klansmen started from. So we got Vida. We have all this surrounding area. It's very, very racist here. You know.
How far are you from Jasper?
Jasper, I'm probably like about 45 minutes from Jasper. But when that happened, I was in Houston and Dick told me to hurry and get there. Then I contacted one of my friends that worked for the media. He said, how you know? I said, Mr. Gregory just said somebody was dragged. We need to get there. So we jumped in the car and went out there and couldn't believe what was going on. It was like a dream. It was like a nightmare, a dream nightmare. You know,
unreal. Yeah.
You know, that smell, like I said, I could still feel that's his smell and stuff from his body and stuff. I could still see his smell, like I picked it up and did like that where the blood was, and man, it was horrible. You know, they said that's his flesh, some of his flesh.
You could smell it.
Yeah, huh?
You could smell it.
Yeah, you could smell it.
Yeah.
It was horrible, you know, and I stayed there, like I said, till the funeral end, until they put him under the ground and closed his casket, and came back and I reported in, you know, to Dick Gregory, to Sharpton and everybody and stuff. And they brought it to the light because they were trying to keep it hush hush. They didn't want no outside media coming in there. They were just trying to keep it under the rug. I mean, I've got so many death threats to it was like a regular thing, you know. But thank God I'm still here and, you know, still in to help others fight for justice. But like Dick said, and I brought Dick Gregory to Jasper later to go to the grave and with the fence around it. I wanted him to see that in person, and I brought him there to see that. And he told the people in Jasper to stop being afraid, because they're afraid there, man. They are scared.
Yeah, it have to be. I mean, something like this is because like we said before, it could have been any one of us.
When you go into Jasper, it's like you entering in another time zone. Like when you go in there, it's like
I know exactly what you're saying.
It's like another time zone.
It's like you stepping from the present into the past.
Yeah, and every time I leave from there, I be like, "Oh God, thank you, I made it back up out of
Made it back, yeah."
Every time I go in there and leave out of there, I'll be like, I don't know if I'm gonna make it back out of there, because you don't know what's gonna happen in the town, and the white people want to cover it up. The local news in Beaumont, they all work together with those people. They want to sweep it under the rug because there's a lumber company and all this stuff. They want to get big businesses there and stuff.
Back together,
they got to clean their act up and get right, you know, because we all are God's children and God love all of us. And like I said, I just want everybody in the world to see what's happening, and it's still happening in Jasper, and I'm not afraid. You know, I'm not afraid.
They say when God is on your side, they said no weapons can be formed. What is that? To prosper against you? Is that the way? Is that the scripture? You know,
that's true. You know, I feel, you know, I got God with me and stuff. You know, and And I know he's not going to let nothing hurt me, you know. And sometimes God will put things so people could see it, you know, because it was big stuff was coming to Jasper and all that stuff stopped.
Yeah.
You know, big corporations, companies, and when they said, whoa, this is what they doing, this people scared to even eat in the restaurants. And at nighttime, people don't like being out after dark out there because anything can happen in Jasper.
Can't blame them. I got Poncho on the check, and my boy, the Puerto Rican bad boy, he said, "What's up, Ricky?"
How you doing, Poncho? Thank you for tuning in. You know, we just want the world to know what happened to Mr. Byrd. This is his anniversary. You know, he didn't want this to be an anniversary, you know, but this is his
like this.
Not like this. You know, Ponch, he was alive doing most of the dragging. A lot of people don't know that. That's why we're trying to educate on watching the documentary so they can know, because there was other things done that was swept under the rug, you know, but this documentary wasn't swept under the rug. And, you know, I just appreciate all the support from around the world. I appreciate you, Mr. Mason. I appreciate Danny Simmons. Just everybody that's been stepping up and supporting me, you know, because, you know, I understand, I know how serious this is. I can get killed doing this here. I have a family too. I can lose my life, you know, because when you stand up against hate and racism, you know, the devil is always lurking. But, you know, I'm holding on, knowing there's a God that ain't gonna let nothing hurt me as long as I got strength, you know, to keep his legacy alive. You know, I don't have Mr. Gregory no more. I miss him. I never thought he was gonna leave me, and this is lesson learned. Just gotta hold on and stay strong.
That's a fact. Let's keep it rolling.
Okay.
What you say is 100%, and there's no question about that. You say tell the truth and you shame the devil. Let's keep it rolling.
Okay.
When my father was killed, the first thing that they did was bombard me with the death penalty. What they do is bombard the family with the death penalty. You know, and as a human, your first reflex is always, well, this to happen to me, well, I think that ought to happen to him too. And that's the wrong way to think. Because thinking like that, you're going to end up in the same situation that man's in right now that I'm about to go visit. And, you know, I would hate to even have myself in that predicament of being locked up for the rest of my life for a crime committed on another man because of the color of his skin or anything that happened to that. And with that, what it's about is being godlike. Being godlike is just treating people with respect, having love for life, and not want to see another man die.
I mean, this has to be the most difficult thing to go through, other than what you went through when your father passed away. Today's meeting is just very unusual. And what are you going to say to him?
Well, what I'm going there to do is to ask what happened. You know, for me to get some closure, because back in 1998, I couldn't even go in the courtrooms. And, you know, that's right there should tell you something about how it was back in 1998. You know, I'm just really going to get more closure, you know, to try to put this behind me. But you can't just forget about the past. You got to work through the past to the future. This is just another stepping stone that I have to step over.
About a month back, we received a letter from Mr. Berry, Sean Berry, telling us that he was sorry for what happened. But, you know, it's okay to get it right with us now, but nobody said to do change the events of June 7, 1998. But if he could pray to God and ask God to forgive him, it doesn't matter if no one else forgive him, because I forgive him, and I know God will too.
Sean's always wanted to talk to members of the Byrd family, and even back when he was in the Jasper County jail, and he chose not to contact them at that point. And once he was in prison, after the trials were over, he chose not to contact anybody until the appeals were over. So he's waited a long time for this meeting, and I think it's something that he's been counting the days for. He wants to talk to him and tell him his side of the story. He wants to tell him what he saw and what happened and what went on, and answer questions that they might have. I'm sure there'll be some hard questions. There'll be some things that are hard for Sean to talk about and discuss, but it's something he's going to have to go through, and he just wants people to know what happens from his point of view that night.
Like I said earlier, I think we are both victims. We have come a long way since the Civil Rights Movement, but we still have a long way to go. I said something to the effect that the war is over, but the battle's not won yet, and that happens today. This is like the battlefield, and it's up to me and Mr. Lewis to address the issue and not neglect it, because silence is not always golden. You could be amongst something going on, and if you don't say anything, you're just as much as guilty as if you did. So I just think that me being a young person of African American color, not that color is an issue, we all should be of one race, which is the human race. And if we could abide by that and stick to the golden rule that God said thou shalt not kill, no matter what, there's no fine print in the Bible that says God should kill, we should kill for the death penalty, or we should kill for war, or we should kill for anything. And if we could just get along and recognize that this is an issue in America, we'll be a better place to live.
In the town of Jasper, city leaders and clergy formed the Mayor's Task Force 2000 to help bridge racial divides. In an effort to heal the community, an iron fence that separated black and white graves for more than 160 years was taken down. The force had become a visible symbol of segregation that many felt needed to come down. James Byrd Jr.'s brutal murder has led individuals and communities to action and a new understanding in the journey to harmony and common ground.
I was just asking him how his life has changed since he was related to one of the killers that murdered my dad, and he was telling me it's kind of like, I guess, stereotyping, because if I could use that, because it's like he's stereotyped, like, oh, that's Barry's brother, you know, he must be that way too. You know, I know he get a lot of that, but just by me, I think I'm still an ordinary person. I tell the truth. I'm able to talk to anybody, go anywhere, be it the president, the governor, whoever, to make a stance and let them know that no matter what the color my dad was, nobody should have been killed like that.
It's weird. It feels like everywhere I go, people know me. You know, I know they can't all know me, but it feels like everywhere I go, people know me, and I feel like they relate me to the crime that took place and the murder, and I never know who does and who doesn't. I never know how I'm going to be approached by people or what to say, you know.
The Byrd family could have easily cried out for retaliation and violence for their loved one, James Byrd Jr., but they did not. They prayed for love, peace, and harmony.
Well, it's obviously, I guess you could say our family, since this murder happened, people think of the Berry family, they think of the death of James Byrd Jr. It's hard to deal with. It's just something, it was a murder like I just couldn't even imagine. some things, you know, the things that happened to Mr. Byrd were something that I thought was of the past, and I mean the long time past. And I think it's an issue that needs to be dealt with. It needs to be addressed because it's obviously not over.
And that was Alan. Alan was
It's Sean Barry's brother. Yeah, he passed away 2 years ago. Bless his soul. He had brain cancer.
Oh, that man that was speaking.
Yes.
That was but that was one of the
killer's brother.
Killer's brother, but he didn't get the death penalty.
No, he got life. 45
He got
years.
life.
Yes.
Okay. But he passed away. The brother passed away. The man we just seen talk.
Yeah, Lewis. Yeah, he passed away. You know, he couldn't understand neither what happened.
Right.
With this situation, and because he get labeled too, because him and his brother look like twins. You know, and everywhere he go, he get blamed for the crime.
Okay.
You know, so.
And it took a lot of courage and heart and compassion for James Byrd's son,
Yes.
and daughter.
Well, the son was working on his album. At first, he did have some hate in his heart, and we were in the studio recording his album because I had managed him for 5 years in the music industry. And he broke down crying, and I said, "Well, what's the matter?" He said, "I got so much hate in me." He said, "Man, the man that did that to my father," he said, "Ricky, I don't want to see him die."
Wow.
And I said, "What did you say?" He said, "I don't want to see them die." And I immediately called Dick Gregory and Martin King III, and they flew in here, and we held a national press conference. We slept outside the death chambers for 3 days, fasting, no water. And because there's been a lot of people that's been executed, like Gary Graham in 2000. You know, so a lot of people that have been wrongly convicted that's under the grave that you can't bring back, because once you take them away, you can't bring them back. So, you know, when he said that, he had so much hate to where it came into love. So, and a lot of people have been asking me what I'm going to do with the letter that Bill King wrote me. I'm going to auction the letter off to help with documentaries like what I made, and to help with people with like the wrongly convictions, innocent people. You know, that's what I'm gonna do with the letter, because a lot of his attorneys have been trying to get it from me, and Dick Gregory told me, you don't get that letter away to nobody. And the documentary, we want it in the Washington, D.C. Museum, you know, because it should be in the Washington, D.C. Museum. It's part of our Black history. But I want everybody to understand it's going to take the people to step up and demand that. You know, I'm doing the best that I can with it and stuff. Thanks for all the awards from around the world, all the organizations, all the places it's being shown. Some places I don't even know where it's being shown, because it's been shown so much in different places. But like I said, we still got the whole world that haven't seen it, because there's other stuff that's out that's sugar-coated. But the film that me and Dick Gregory and Martin King III, this film here, Byrd Life and
Tell the
Tragic
people
Death.
where they can reach you. You know.
Well, they can reach me on Facebook, Ricky, R-I-C-K-Y, or Jason, J-S-O-N. You can reach me on Facebook, or you contact Mr. George Mason, and because I get a lot of calls, and we could see who you're talking to, and I'll talk to them and see where they want to go with it from there and stuff. But like my doors are always open. You know, I'm just like Dick Gregory, or I don't run with a lot of bodyguards. I'm just down to earth person. You know, I did this because, you know, because that could have been my mother, my brother that was done this way. And when Dick told me it was in your
eye, man, there's no question about that. Because not to cut you, I want to tell you the story real quick. I went to Grambling, Louisiana, Grambling University, State University, and you know, like what you said, what hit me, you know, when you said it was that it was like stepping into a time zone, a time warp. When I went to Grambling, you know, coming from New York, you know, Louisiana, I was, you know, like you said, I was mesmerized. And when I went into a town 5 miles from Grambling, which is Ruston, Louisiana, that's where Terry Bradshaw is from, Louisiana Tech. And I didn't know. I was going across the street. I was on the medium, and this pickup truck pulled right next to me. And two white men in there just looked at me and said, "Nigga." But the way he said "nigga," you know, it went through me. It chilled. It chilled. I mean, literally, the chills went through me. You know, it was like, yeah. So, but it was something like they just pulled up and then just kept it moving, like it was a stop. And that made me realize where I was at then. I knew where I was at, but that really brought it to like, whoa, you know, that was like I said, this is where I'm at. They could have easily snatched me up, or, you know, when I think back on it, you know, and then they were in the pickup. It was a pickup truck, like a little gray, whitish type pickup truck, nigga. I mean, it just I didn't provoke that. I'm like, yo, you know, New York, you know, you meet with all kind of, you know what I'm saying, but you know, you got black people calling you nigga, you know what I'm saying, but you don't have like, you know, not like that. That was like, yo, but it was on another level type shit. But yeah, man. So, and James Byrd, from what I get from your piece, your documentary, and what people have said, I watched some other videos as well. They said he was just a good-natured individual. He was just
he was a genius. He used to help the teachers teach the kids in class. His school teacher, she's dead and gone too, because everybody in my documentary have passed away. His classmates, Dick Gregory, everybody passed away. He graduated from high school. He had a family. See, a lot of people don't know this about the man. He was in the military fighting for our country, but then we have white supremacists in our own country attacked him and murdered and lynched him. So, and the guy could play a piano. He was all around a genius. You know, you don't ever know when he's gonna make. He could sing. Purple Rain. They said it was
Purple Rain. They said Purple Rain was his favorite. That's what they called him, right? They called him Purple Rain.
And he always told the people he was gonna put Jasper on the map, but he didn't think it was gonna happen like this here.
Like this. Let's keep it going, Ricky.
Thank you.
Yeah.
My family always embraced love, and for us, there really never was the option. We had asked that the man who killed my father, we asked the DA in prosecuting him, we asked them not to kill him. Death penalty is the ultimate of terror and terrorism, and we believe two wrongs don't make a right.
Because what they expected and what they almost wanted was for them to be furious and full of hate. And they were so dignified and so generous, and just, you know, I just wept. It was so beautiful.
Almost for every 8 people we execute, we have to release 1 from death row. That's a 1 in 8 ratio of error. Would you get on an airplane where they tell you got a 1 in 8 chance of making it to the other side? It's a huge error rate. And that's making the American people go, oh, well, we didn't know it was like this.
Well, I was certainly honored to have the opportunity to be here with Ross, to actually hear, and as one, as you stated, who also was a victim. I think that Ross and the family are going to have discussions, because hearing something firsthand, fresh, you have to think about it. And I think there may be another time that he may want to speak, or family may want to speak additionally. It's not something that you just arbitrarily get over, but it helps to bring closure when you do have a semblance of truth. And I do believe that additional truth was established today for him that he will share with his sisters and mom.
Well, I'm glad that I had a chance to hear what happened, or his version of what happened, or just anything, because like I said, I wasn't able to go in the courtroom back in '98, so I didn't know nothing but what I had read.
Did any of that anger come back?
Anger? Oh no, this is a beautiful day. You see the sun and came right.
Yo,
see the sun came out. It's a beautiful day.
Oh, wow, that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
What did you think of him, Ross?
What did I think?
Yeah.
Well, he seemed sincere, and looking right in his eyes, and it's just situations happen, and won't nobody never know what really happened, but them three men and God. So that's basically how I feel about it.
I too felt that he was genuine in what he stated. I felt, I believe he certainly stated that he was not able to sleep, that he needed to share. All of his appeals are exhausted, so he had no ulterior motive other than to come clean. He could have perhaps done this at another time, and maybe it would have been beneficial to him. But I do not feel that was the case. I feel that he said that he was not able to sleep, and that he was just thankful that the family was receptive to seeing him.
Sometimes you put in situations where you have no choice but to do the right thing. So I went to D.C. and I testified before Congress to get this hate crime bill passed on a national level. It failed. That didn't stop me. I'm like, okay, let me start in my own state, which is Texas. So I went back to Hawaii, and I began doing research on what is it I have to do, who can I talk to pass this bill in Texas. I met with a lady named Symphonia Thompson out of Austin, which is the capital of Texas. I met with her. I met with Senator Warren West. I met with numerous amounts of people who helped me in aiding in the passage of this hate crime bill in Texas.
At the state level, the James Byrd Jr. Hate Crimes Act became law in 2001. The bill increases penalties for crimes motivated by prejudice based on gender, race, ethnicity, and sexual orientation.
I'm hoping that as far as positive things that come from this, I'm hoping that if nothing else, if it's not going to be a lesson to the world, which I hope it is, I hope people listen and they watch what everybody's trying to do since this happened. I want it to bring the communities closer. I want it to bring the families closer. I don't want to have to drive through town and maybe, see members of the Byrd family in town and not feel like I couldn't say hi to them in the store or wave at them passing on the street. I think we need to take this to a whole new level. I don't think it's all exactly a black and white issue anymore either. I think it's a people issue. Everybody seems these days to hate everybody, and I don't think that's the way it should be. We need to work on it. People need to listen.
They need to educate themselves.
Definitely need education.
I know it takes both toes, because I know he caught up with it. He caught up in the predicament, but it hurt both sides of the family. What I can say, just continue supporting. Always be behind your family. It's the main thing.
I think that people at Jasper always spoke about a healing process, and I think this is where the healing process is starting right now.
Whoa!
I think this is what was needed.
Give me a hand. All right, brother.
Wow. Yo, that's the brother of the one that got life. Yeah, you say he passed away.
Yeah, he passed away at brain cancer. Yeah, and he passed away. And he was the only support that his brother had, and he passed away. And I've been with him 4 or 5 times, met with him, talked with him. You know, he seemed like a real person. He just don't understand what happened. His brother was a little young 18-year-old guy when it happened, was at work, and they picked him up from work. They was riding in his truck, Bill King and Russell Brewer, and they was looking to have fun, and they called themselves picking up James Byrd to ride and have some fun. But he said he didn't know, because I went in and seen Sean Beard before Ross, and from Martin King, Dick them sent me in there first to go make sure he was on point, that he wasn't going to be talking all crazy. And he just said he was afraid. And then they did an autopsy on him. He had peed in his clothes. He said he was afraid. That's why he didn't do anything. He just sat on the edge of the truck and watched. He said he was scared. Could somebody be that scared? Yes. Or
Yes,
did he
they
do
can.
it? I don't know. Could he been capable of doing it? Could he been lying to cover his behind because he was afraid? Yes. So, you know, only them and God would know. You know, he comes up for parole. He'll be, what, 60-something years old when he come up for parole.
What is
So,
it? That's in 35, right?
He got 45
2035.
years. Yeah, 45 years.
But I mean, his parole date is the 35th year, 2035.
Yeah, 2035. He comes up. Yeah. You know.
And we had more people joining us. They came in late. I don't know, it's because I put it up that we were gonna, do the 2 hours. Maybe they miscalculated, but we got 786 people in there, which is good. And I'm thankful
Welcome
for them,
around.
but they did show up a little late. They missed some stuff. So what they'll have to do is just watch the documentary, watch our show in its in total entirety. But this is the the life and tragic death of James Byrd Jr. He said he will always put Jasper, Texas on the map. That's what he
True.
said. But this is on YouTube, and this is a Ricky Jason documentary of production featuring Dick Gregory. You see Martin Luther III as well, and other luminaries, Maxine Waters, um, Jesse Jackson, and it's a great piece. It's an interesting piece, and please watch and support the brother, and then follow up on him. And this, as we're doing here today, is a follow up from Ricky's initial visit here. This is, as we said, the 25th anniversary of the dragging death of the heinous murder, the lynching of Mr. Byrd, of James Byrd Jr. And as you see, we had with the both families that they shook hands, and they, and it's got to be a hell of a thing. Your father was killed and murdered the way he was, and to actually uh, be confronted by a family member and of the, one of the murderers of the crime, and they shake hands with him, huh?
And that was powerful. And,
Yes.
that was powerful. And like I said, Jasper, those that just tuning in, Jasper, Texas is worse than what it was. Don't let the local news fool you. It's worse than what it was. It hasn't changed. There's still been some more lynchings and killings in Jasper. And I don't know what else to say. You can't say close the town down, because where are the people going to go?
Yeah.
And they're so set in their ways. It's like going in a time, like I said, it's like Dodge City. When you
Yeah.
going into town, it's like you going into like a Dodge City. So when you coming into this time and that time, it's like a different time. But I'm hoping that some justice can come out of this here. And Dick Gregory last wishes that he wanted this documentary in the Washington, D.C. museum. Anybody that's listening can call the museum in Washington, D.C. and demand that this is a part of our history. This should be in the Washington, D.C. documentary and our museum in Washington, D.C.
Washington.
And I'm with that. And like I said, the letter that Bill King wrote, I'm with, like I said, auction it off or whatever, so we can help other people, because there's a lot of wrongly convicted people in prison, and there's a lot of wrongly convicted people on death row. And, a lot of people need help. When you get a court-appointed lawyer, they works for the courts, and what they tell you, they gonna do it by their way. So I'm just here
Mm-hmm.
I'm just Dick Gregory's protege, and I'm just a messenger, and I just did this documentary. I never in my dream thought that it would do what it's doing, but like I said, we still got the whole world to see this.
There's still more work to do.
Yeah,
And
it's just
when you read some of that letter, and when you read some of that letter that King had wrote about with you and Ross, speak your peel forever, bite your tongue, huh?
Yeah, he told us bite your
He
tongue.
said, yeah.
Why
I
would you
mean,
want to
but yeah,
associate with a racist supremacist like me? He admitted it, and in telling the Byrd family, he had no remorse, and they say he was in there packing his stuff, getting ready to go where all white people was. I couldn't believe that. And they say he right behind you, Ricky, packing his stuff right now. And they said, we told him he has an hour, he might get a stay of execution. He said he wasn't worrying about no stay. He was ready to go.
Ready to go.
All white people. And can people be brainwashed like that? Yes. Could he been trying to con the system so he wouldn't get execution? Yes. So it's sad,
Could he just be sick in the head? Yes. Yeah, because something's wrong with him. I mean, obviously, that goes without saying it, but I mean, there's all type of mental illnesses and sicknesses, and as you said, you pointed out, the brainwashing definitely is a factor, but when he took it to the point where he was saying, with death, would be an honor, the way he went out from what he did, so
both men said it.
yeah.
And
Well,
another thing I
that
want
King was the one.
everybody to understand that too. James Byrd, he was alive doing most of the dragging. That's why his elbows and behind his butt was taut, because he was trying to stay up. And a lot of people don't understand neither. This wasn't a little chain. This was a logging chain.
Yeah. Well, it was shown. They see it, and if they go and then check your documentary out, they'll see exactly what you're talking about. They need to see the documentary for themselves to get the gist of. We played clips here, and the clips definitely is very sensitive, and it shows the horrific crimes. But to watch a documentary from start to finish in its totality, you'll get the whole picture, the whole feel of what Mr. Jason did in that documentary. And so, but that's why we wanted to just commemorate. This is the 25th year of James Byrd, and also to still, keep his whole everything with us. What he wanted, as he said, he wanted to put Jasper on the map, but it's bigger than that now. Okay, it's much bigger than that. This is a worldwide situation with Mr. Jason doing what he did, along with the great late Mr. Dick Gregory, a brilliant man, who had Ricky's back 100%. Who taught Ricky, was his mentor, and it rubbed off. And as I said, Mustafa says your fight is his fight as well.
Thank you, Mustafa.
Yeah, he wanted you to know that with Momia. He said, man, he said, yo, I'm with it. Whatever Ricky, Mr. J, he said, George, please relay that message to him. Let him know whatever he wants me to do on that front with that fight as well. Christopher Shaw, whatever. And with Quentin, that fake community activist, what's his name, Quanell?
Yeah, Quanell X out of Houston.
Right, yeah. So we'll get into that. You come back, and we'll talk about that as well. I want to play this last clip, and we keep it moving. Elaborate, and then we'll go from there. You good with that?
Good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That it's like a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a percentage of people who live in some whacked out, backwards, isolated town. I hope that it's not everywhere that this kind of thing would happen and that this would be people's attitudes, and yet and yet I know that racism prevails, and I know that I guess I recognize that I, as a Caucasian person, I feel like racism really still exists, and most people would never talk about it or act on it, but I feel like there's a subconscious that exists, and I feel like I don't know, the fact that I've dated interracially, and I've got close people in my circle who are of different races. I feel like I'm in a minority in terms of white people.
Like when I read about Jasper, you know, they call it the jewel of the forest. It's a pretty city, you know, rolling countryside and all of that, big lakes and stuff. And it's a beautiful city, I'm pretty sure it is, but in that, it's kind of like snakes in the garden, but people just tend to walk over the snakes almost like they're not there. As long as they don't bite you, it's no big deal. You know what I mean? So, and this happens in a lot of places throughout the country when stuff like that happens. What the first thing comes out of people's mouths is they always give you this impression that it's just some big surprise. That, oh, that doesn't happen here, blah, 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 blah. But in that, when we talk about the racial tension that exists in that city, and what came out of that, what I saw was that was a microcosm of America, where, you know, again, you have this country that's, you know, all our lives we're told, you know, all these beautiful things about America, you know, the history, land of the free, home of the brave, but there's a lot of tension that's going on here amongst different races, different classes, not just races, but tension that exists between people of different classes, if you will, be it, you know, rich or poor, black or white, whatever the case may be. And it all stems from, you know, I guess some people have a hard time accepting that some people are different. You know, each musician in a band has his own instrument. They're all different instruments, but they all form one band. And the common denominator is, you know, is rhythm, is harmony, and they all work together. That's the ideal example for me of how different things and even different people can come together for one purpose and do something. You know, if you can take that example and apply it to life, then I think you can get somewhere with that. You know?
I can remember when I first heard about James Byrd Jr. about 10 years ago. It was pretty much straight to the point. He was tied behind the back of a truck and dragged to death. That was pretty much it. Nothing about his life, nothing about him being a musical genius, you know, nothing about his family, his children. So probably about 9 years ago, I get a call from a friend of mine, and she says that this director in Texas is looking for someone to edit his film. And I said, well, what is the film about? And she said, you know, it's about that guy that was dragged in Texas about a few years ago. And I said, oh yeah, I remember that, but you know, I don't have any details about his life. So is there anywhere I can go to get details, or is there someone I can talk to? She said, well, talk to the director. So Ricky, Jason, and I, we talked, and wow, I had no idea, you know, this man was a genius in music. He was a smart student in school. He had beautiful children, and I must say that when I actually started editing this film, I had to kind of catch myself and cut it off for a while, because I mean, just the imagery and the things that happened, the detail and how it happened, you know, it kind of got to me a little bit, because these are the things that we really didn't hear in the media.
You say he's gone, you know, he ain't there, but he's still there in my heart, you know what I'm saying? Because I remember the times that we had, and you can't take away memory. Memory is like time passing by. If it wasn't for 1989, it wouldn't be year 2004, and we wouldn't be here recording this. That's what I really miss about it.
in the back of my mind and in the front of my mind. I hope God give the Byrd family peace and let James Byrd, known as Purple Rain, because Prince song, because he sure could sing it and play it, and he would be stumbling and singing it. I hope he rest in peace.
And all I ever wanted was for him to be proud of me. And I think this day he is proud of me. He's looking down on me, and he's very excited about what I've become, what I'm doing in his name. My children, he got a chance to see my daughter, but he never got a chance to meet my son. And my son really, really looks like him and acts like him and have some of his characteristics.
The thing that mostly hurts, like when I get ready to one day hopefully get married. He would be there to walk me down the aisle. He wouldn't be there to walk me down the aisle. And even though I know that I have my brother here, and he's just a split image of my dad, it hurts. It hurts when I even look at my brother sometimes, because I see my dad a lot in my brother. And I know that hurts me to know that all the events in my life that my dad could have played a part in, he wasn't able to walk on my side.
Wow.
Yeah, I tell you, it's been a journey, and the fight is not over with, for all of us. There's racism all over the world, but in the deep south, we live it every day. We live it every day, and, a lot of us we got to fight, we got to stand up, not stand down. The ones that's going to stand down, they might as well get out of the way. We have to stand up, so I'm hoping that a lot of people that see this film and saw it today learn what happened to James Byrd. They can watch, like I said, on YouTube, Byrd, The Life and Tragic Death of James Byrd Jr. featuring Dick Gregory. Free to watch on YouTube. And also send in your letters as well to the Washington, D.C. Museum, because the film needs to be in the museum. It's going to take the people to get it in there and to demand that it be, and it's a part of our history. And remember, Jasper, Texas haven't changed. Those people are stuck in another world, and we need to be there for them. So we're not just outsiders, like they are part of our sisters and brothers, and we need to know that we here for them people in Jasper, the ones that can't get out, the ones that's struggling and don't have no means of getting out. You know, that's all they know is Jasper. So that's like taking Dodge City and sit it in the middle of New York City. You know what that'll be. So, and I thank and I praise God that we all have made it here safe today. I pray to God that your return and my return will be equally safe. Rest in peace, James Byrd, on your 25th anniversary. Thank you, George Mason, for a beautiful show. God bless you, my brother.
God bless you as well. Thank you for sharing your story, Ricky.
Thank
And
you.
I mean, it's just incredible, as you say, journey. And I'm here for you. And like I said, Brother Mustafa uh, is just one. I don't know what happened with Miss Chambers, Bonnie Chambers, the real Bonnie Chambers, and I'll talk to her. And then she wants you as well. She wants to share your story,
Yes,
and
sir.
but we'll set all that up. And you want to leave the my audience with anything? I mean, we've covered pretty much, you know, the whole
Yeah.
spectrum.
I appreciate you so much, and God bless you. And we're gonna continue. You know, the fight for freedom is not over with yet. You know, a lot of people just don't know that, but it's not over with yet. And those in Jasper that's seeking, that's watching this and looking for help and stuff, just reach out. Stand up, like Mr. Gregory said. Stand up. I didn't bring him to Jasper, Texas for nothing.
Nothing, no doubt. And yeah, the fight continues. It goes on, as you say, brother Jason.
Yes,
And
sir.
I want you to enjoy the rest of your night. And
Yes, sir.
ask your daughter, did she get my Pepsi? She went to the store.
Yeah. Yeah. Now I'm
All
out to
right.
mail it to you. Yes, yes,
No
sir.
doubt. Uh-huh.
But
But
thank you
yeah,
for your courtesy, and thank you for your one of the greatest shows on this planet. Thank you, Mr. George Mason, and God bless you in your journey as well. And like I say, anytime you call me, I'm here.
I appreciate your kind words, and we will talk as always. No doubt about that. Yes.
And thank you. God
God,
bless you.
thank you as well.
Peace. On the
Peace.
move.
Yes, yes. That's brother Ricky Jason. Yes, and it was a great show, terrific show, for the 25th anniversary of the dragon death of James Byrd Jr. And he did a hell of a job with that documentary, a hell of a piece. And I hope that I did it justice in showing what transpired. And I want to thank you folks for hanging in there with us. I appreciate you. And guys, enjoy the rest of your weekend and stay strong, stay positive. You can't be in the wrong if you're doing the right thing. And as I always say, if you have a loved one, you tell them that you love them, huh? Hug them. Life is short, and let them know. And persistence overcomes resistance all the time. And what I want to do, I want to play you out with. This is not Smokey now. This is Ricky Jason doing his thing. I love peace and harmony. Sounds like Smokey Robinson, and I want to, have a show with him where I play some of the songs with his permission. Sounds just like Smokey, just so smooth and silky, angelic voice, beautiful. Here it is right now. Love, peace, and harmony. Ricky Jason, huh?
Peace and harmony.
Era una noche más extraña. La nieve caía y la música sonaba. Estaba caminando meditando en el pasado. Los niños lloraban y la gente gritaba. ¿Por qué? Todo por causa del pecado. Amor,
each and every day. And people, don't you realize it ain't supposed to be that way? We need everyone to forget about racial lies. Evil don't discriminate, a crime is colorblind. We need everyone, both you and me, so we can have love, peace, and harmony. We sing about it and talk about it. Just what about it? Love, peace, and harmony. And pray about it, and pray about it. Just pray about it. Love, peace, and harmony. Yeah.
I dedicate this song to all the troops around the world defending our freedom. And Reverend Martin Luther King, thank you for our freedom and liberation.
Tell me now, where's the love? Tell me now, sing about it, talk about it, just what about it? Love, peace, and harmony. Sing about it, talk about it, just what about it?
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you, Ricky Jason. Have a good night, everybody. God bless. Peace. It was love, peace, and harmony, huh? That's what we need, no doubt.